The alarm had already failed when the human heard the sound. It was not loud. It was not strong. It was a thin, broken cry, almost lost under the scream of the cold wind. The snow-covered valley was supposed to be empty. No life was meant to exist here. That was what the warnings said. That was what the map said. That was why the human should have kept walking. But he stopped. His name was Roland Voss, and he worked alone at the edge of known space. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He repaired sensors, cleared ice from machines, and followed rules written by people who never came this far. The Dragon Zone was marked in red. No entry. No rescue. No mistakes. Another cry came, weaker than before. Roland felt his chest tighten. He told himself it could be the wind. He told himself it could be a broken pipe or shifting ice. But the sound came again, and this time it carried fear. He turned toward the sound. The storm had broken part of the valley wall during the night. Ice and metal debris lay scattered across the snow. Roland moved slowly, his boots sinking deep. The cold bit through his gloves. His breath fogged his visor. Then he saw it. Something small was moving beneath a slab of bent alloy. At first, his mind refused to accept it. Dragons were massive. Dragons were fire and shadow. Dragons did not fit under broken metal like trapped animals. But this one did. A hatchling. Its scales were dull, not shining. One wing was pinned. Its breathing was fast and uneven. Its eyes, wide and glowing faintly, locked onto Roland the moment he stepped closer. Everything he had ever learned screamed at him to run. Dragons did not forgive. Dragons did not forget. Even touching one could be a death sentence if the elders sensed it. And they always sensed it. Roland raised his hands slowly, showing empty palms. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. The hatchling hissed, weak and thin, a sound more sad than threatening. "It's okay," Roland said, his voice shaking. He did not know why he spoke. The dragon could not understand his words. But the sound seemed to matter. The hatchling stopped hissing. Just watched him. The metal slab was heavy. Roland tested it and felt pain shoot up his arm. He could move it but not without tools. He looked at his pack. Basic gear. Cutting torch. Ice pry. Not enough for safe work. Enough for risky work. Another cry escaped the hatchling, and this time it was softer, almost fading. Roland made his choice. He activated the torch. The light flared bright against the snow. The heat steamed the ice, but it also burned his glove when he slipped. He cursed but did not stop. Slowly, carefully, he cut away the twisted edge holding the wing. The metal shifted. The slab slid. Roland jumped forward without thinking. The edge sliced across his arm. Pain exploded. Blood spilled onto the white snow, dark and sudden. He bit down hard to keep from shouting. The slab stopped just short of crushing the hatchling's chest. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the hatchling crawled free. It did not attack. It did not breathe fire. Instead, it stumbled, collapsed, and pressed its small body against Roland's leg. Its warmth soaked through his suit. Its shaking slowly eased. Roland stared down in shock. He was bleeding. His arm burned. His suit was damaged. And a dragon was leaning on him like a frightened child. High above the valley, far beyond sight, ancient sensors awakened. Eyes opened in the dark. Signals moved through dragon space, silent and sharp. Guardians locked onto the scene below. They saw the human. They saw the blood on the snow. They saw the hatchling alive. No alarm was sounded. No attack was ordered. They watched. Roland sat down slowly, afraid that standing might scare the creature. He wrapped his good arm around his injured one, pressing the wound to slow the bleeding. His breath came fast then slow. The cold tried to steal his strength, but the hatchling's heat helped more than he expected. "Easy," he whispered, more to himself than to the dragon. "Just stay still." The hatchling lifted its head and looked at his arm. It sniffed the air. Its eyes glowed a little brighter. It made a low sound, not a growl, not a cry. Something else. Roland did not know it then, but that sound would later be recorded in dragon history. It was the sound of recognition. Snow fell heavier. The storm began to close in again. Roland knew he could not stay long. But he also knew he could not leave yet. So he stayed. Alone in the frozen valley, bleeding into the snow, with a dragon hatchling pressed against him, while unseen legends watched and waited. And the old laws, silent for centuries, began to stir. The cold grew sharper as the storm returned. Roland's vision blurred at the edges, not from fear but from blood loss. His arm throbbed with every heartbeat. He pressed his glove harder against the cut, but the fabric was already soaked. Dark red spread across the ice beneath him, a harsh color against the white ground. The hatchling noticed. It shifted closer, placing its small body between Rollin and the wind. Its warmth was steady, gentle, nothing like the burning heat people feared from dragons. The little creature's chest rose and fell in a slow rhythm, and that calm spread to Rollin despite the pain. Don't worry, Rollin whispered, teeth chattering. I'll be okay. The hatchling tilted its head, studying his face. Then it looked down at his injured arm. It sniffed again, longer this time. The glowing lines along its neck pulsed faintly. It lowered its head and touched its nose to the blood-stained snow. Rollin froze. Every story he had ever heard warned against this moment. Blood called dragons. Blood meant hunger. Blood meant death. His heart raced and his muscles tensed, ready to pull away if needed. But the hatchling did not bite. Instead, it made a soft sound and lifted its head. A thin mist flowed from its mouth, not fire, but warmth mixed with something else. The air shimmered briefly. The bleeding slowed. Rollin stared in disbelief. The pain eased just a little. Not gone. Just quieter. You're helping? He whispered. The hatchling blinked and leaned its forehead gently against his arm. Its scales felt smooth, almost warm stone. Rollin swallowed hard. He had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. High above, the watchers stirred. The dragon guardians saw the mist. They recognized it. Healing breath used only among kin. Never given to outsiders. Never to humans. Low murmurs spread through the ancient council. Some reacted with anger. Others with shock. A few with something close to awe. Below, Rollin struggled to his feet. He knew staying still too long would kill him. The storm would finish what the wound started. He checked his pack with shaking hands and pulled out a basic seal patch. It was meant for suit tears, not deep cuts, but it was all he had. The hatchling watched closely as he worked. Rollin cleaned the wound with melted ice, hissing through clenched teeth. He pressed the seal over the cut. It held barely. Blood still seeped, but slower now. He wrapped it tight. Okay, he said softly. That's the best I can do. The hatchling chirped quietly, a sound full of relief. Rollin scanned the valley. The storm had erased his tracks. Visibility was poor. His transport beacon was damaged in the collapse. He could call for help, but he knew what would happen if he did. They would come armed. They would take the hatchling. He looked down at the small dragon, now curled at his side, trusting without fear. His chest tightened. No, he murmured. I won't do that. He activated a short-range signal instead, one that only marked his location as occupied, not urgent. It would delay response. Maybe by time. The hatchling suddenly stiffened. Its head lifted. Its body tensed. A low sound rolled from its chest, stronger than before. Not fear. Not pain. Awareness. Rollin felt it too. The air changed. The snow stopped falling. The wind pulled back as if the valley itself was holding its breath. Rollin turned slowly. At the edge of the valley, shapes emerged from the storm. Huge. Silent. Wings folded like mountains. Eyes glowing with ancient fire. Dragons. Not one. Not two. A full honor guard. Rollin's legs nearly gave out. He placed himself in front of the hatchling without thinking, even though he knew how useless that was. His injured arm burned as he raised it, palm open. I didn't hurt it, he said, voice rough but steady. I helped. That's all. The largest dragon lowered its head. Its presence pressed down like gravity. Its eyes flicked to the blood on the ice. Then to the seal on Rollin's arm. Then to the hatchling, who stepped forward and placed itself firmly at Rollin's side. The guardians paused. The hatchling made a clear sound, sharp and proud. It pressed its head against Rollin's leg again. The meaning was clear. The human was claimed. Silence stretched long and heavy. Rollin's heart hammered, but he did not move. He would not beg. He would not run. He would stand. At last, the great dragon bowed its head. Not to Rollin, but with him. Far above, the old laws shattered like thin ice. Blood on the snow had marked more than an injury. It had marked a bond. The valley stayed silent after the bow. Rollin could hear his own breath inside his helmet. Each inhale felt loud. Each exhale felt like it might be his last. The dragons did not move closer, but they did not leave. Their eyes stayed on him, bright and heavy, like the weight of history pressing down. The hatchling stood firm at Rollin's side. It lifted its small head and made a clear sound again, stronger this time. Not a cry. Not a threat. A claim. The sound echoed off the ice walls and faded into the still air. The largest dragon shifted its wings slightly. Snow slid from its scales like water. Its eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with focus. It looked past Rollin, then above him, then around the valley. It was not just watching the human. It was watching everything. Roland felt it then. A strange pressure like being seen from the inside. His thoughts slowed. His fear did not vanish, but it became quiet, as if something older had decided panic was useless. He lowered his raised arm. The pain flared sharp and hot, but he did not flinch. "I won't run," he said, voice calm despite the shaking in his body. "If you're here for me, I'm here." The words were simple. Honest. Nothing more. The dragons listened. The second dragon stepped forward. Smaller than the first but still massive. Its scales were pale blue, marked with deep lines that glowed faintly. It lowered its head until one eye was level with Roland's face. The hatchling moved instantly, placing itself between them. Its wings spread wide, thin and untrained but full of meaning. The larger dragon released a low sound, deep and slow. The blue dragon stopped. Roland swallowed. He realized then that this was not a judgment. Not yet. This was an examination. Ancient eyes measured him. They watched how he stood, wounded but steady. They watched how he did not reach for a weapon. They watched how he kept his body open, how his shoulders leaned just a little toward the hatchling instead of away. They watched how the hatchling leaned back. Time stretched. Roland's legs began to shake. The cold crept through his boots. His injured arm throbbed again as the seal weakened. He stayed upright anyway. The largest dragon lifted its head and looked toward the sky. Roland followed its gaze. Above the clouds, unseen shapes moved. Not physical. Something else. Old systems. Old watchers. Things built before humans had learned to leave their planet. The dragon court was watching. Roland felt small. Not weak. Just small in the way a person feels when standing under the stars. The hatchling looked up too. It made a soft sound, uncertain now. It pressed closer to Roland's leg, tail curling around his boot. Roland reached down slowly, carefully, giving the dragons time to stop him if they wished. No one did. His gloved hand rested gently on the hatchling's head. The scales were warm. "It's okay," he said quietly. "I'm here." The words were not for the dragons. They were for the child. The watchers reacted. Far above, signals changed. Old rules shifted. Lines drawn in ancient fire bent just a little. The blue dragon stepped back. The largest dragon lowered its head again, this time not as a bow, but as a sign of acknowledgement. Its voice rolled across the valley, deep and slow. Roland did not understand the words, but he felt the meaning settle into his chest. Witnessed. The dragon's gaze moved to Roland's arm. Blood still seeped from beneath the seal. The scent drifted in the cold air. Once that smell would have ended him. Now it only sharpened their focus. The dragon exhaled gently. Warm air washed over Roland, steady and controlled. The seal hardened. The bleeding stopped fully. Pain faded to a dull ache. Roland gasped in surprise. "Thank you," he said without thinking. The dragon did not respond, but its eyes softened just a little. The hatchling made a happy sound and rubbed its head against Roland's leg again. Above, the watchers recorded everything. A human who did not flee. A human who bled and stayed. A human who was chosen by a hatchling without command or fear. This was not normal. This was not allowed. But it was real. The largest dragon turned its head toward the mountains. The storm began to move again, slow and gentle now. The valley warmed by a few degrees, just enough. A path opened in the snow. Not an order. An invitation. Roland looked down at the hatchling, then at the path, then back at the dragons. "Together?" he asked softly. The hatchling chirped. The ancient eyes watched as the human took the first step, not away but forward. And the world quietly changed its mind about what humans could be. The path led deeper into the mountains. Roland walked slowly, careful of the ice beneath his boots. The hatchling stayed close, sometimes walking, sometimes half-sliding in excitement. The great dragons followed at a distance, their presence heavy but calm. The storm no longer bit at the skin. Snow fell softly now, like quiet breath. Roland felt the weight of what was happening, but he did not fully understand it yet. They reached a wide stone hollow carved into the mountain itself. Old marks covered the walls. Not words. Not pictures. Signs of fire, claw and time. The air inside was warm and still. The largest dragon stepped forward and turned to face Roland. It lowered its head until its eyes met his. Roland stood straight. His heart beat hard, but his fear stayed quiet. The hatchling moved between his feet and looked up at both of them, tail swaying. The dragon lifted one claw. The stone floor glowed faintly as lines of light spread outward. Roland felt the ground hum, not loud but deep. The air thickened like a held breath. He realized then that this place was not just a shelter. It was a court. Not for words. For truth. The dragon's voice rolled through the hollow. Slow. Heavy. Each sound pressed into Roland's chest. He did not understand the language, but meaning passed through him all the same. Blood given without demand. Protection offered without claim. Fear faced without weapon. The dragon's claw moved toward Roland's injured arm. Roland did not step back. The claw touched the seal, then the fabric beneath. Heat flowed through him, not burning but strong. The pain vanished completely. The skin beneath knit together, leaving no wound. Roland stared in shock. The dragon was not done. The claw traced a slow line in the air. Fire followed it, thin and controlled. The flame did not strike Roland's body. It hovered just above his chest, shaping itself. The hatchling watched closely, eyes wide. The fire pressed forward. Roland closed his eyes. The mark settled into him. There was no pain. Only warmth. A deep warmth that sank past skin and bone, into something older inside him. He gasped, not in hurt but in surprise. When he opened his eyes, the fire was gone. A faint symbol glowed through his jacket, soft and steady, like a hidden ember. It did not burn. It did not fade. The dragons watched him carefully. Roland touched his chest. He could feel it. Not with his fingers but with his sense of self. "What is this?" he asked quietly. The largest dragon lowered its head again, deeper than before. The blue dragon stepped forward and spoke in broken trade speech, slow and careful. "Mark," it said. "Honor." Roland swallowed. "For me?" The blue dragon nodded once. "For you. Protector. Blood giver." The words felt heavy. "I didn't plan any of this," Roland said. "I just couldn't leave." The blue dragon's eyes softened. "That is why." The hatchling chirped loudly and jumped against Roland's leg, then climbed clumsily onto his boot. It tried to spread its wings and slipped, landing on its side. Roland laughed before he could stop himself. The sound echoed in the hollow. The dragons did not grow angry. The largest dragon released a low sound that shook the stone. Not a roar. A laugh. Roland froze, then smiled, unsure if he was allowed to. The mark on his chest pulsed once, gentle and warm. Above the mountain, unseen systems reacted. Ancient laws adjusted. Records changed. A human had been marked. This had not happened in living memory. The blue dragon looked at Roland. "This mark binds no chain," it said. "It gives no order. It is not ownership." "Then what does it do?" Roland asked. The dragon answered simply. "It remembers." Roland felt a strange tightness in his throat. He nodded slowly. "I'll remember too," he said. The largest dragon turned its gaze to the hatchling. The child dragon ran forward, stumbled, then climbed onto Roland's leg again, proud of itself. The dragon's eyes softened fully now. The choice was made. Roland would not be chased away. He would not be erased. He would be watched. And honored. The storm outside faded completely. For the first time in many years the mountain rested. And a human stood marked beneath ancient wings, unaware that his name would soon be spoken far beyond the ice. Snow fell in a slow, quiet way that morning. High above the mountain, ancient alarms awakened. Not loud. Not sharp. They moved like deep thoughts passing from one mind to another. Old watchers stirred from long silence. The bond had been accepted. That fact alone was enough to change everything. In the high sky chamber carved from black stone and crystal, the dragons gathered. Their bodies were vast, but their movements were calm and careful. Firelight flowed along the walls, lighting old scars left by wars that no song dared to name. At the center stood the hatchling. Small, bright-eyed, alive. Beside the child stood the human. He was wrapped in borrowed furs, still unaware of the full weight placed upon him. The mark beneath his chest glowed softly, hidden but strong. He felt different now, though he could not explain how. It was not power. It was not command. It was belonging. The oldest dragon in the chamber shifted forward. Its scales were pale like ash, marked by time. When it spoke, the sound did not echo. It settled. "This bond was not planned," the elder said. "That is why it is true." Other dragons lowered their heads. Agreement moved through the chamber like a shared breath. The human stood straight. He did not bow. He did not speak. He only placed one hand on the stone floor and the other near the hatchling, ready if the child stumbled. The elder watched this small movement closely. "History has turned on less," the elder continued. "Empires were built on fear. They fell by it as well." The hatchling chirped and tugged at the human's sleeve. The human smiled and knelt, steadying the child. The simple act caused a ripple of quiet surprise among the gathered dragons. No command had been given. Still the human served. A younger dragon stepped forward, scales dark blue, eyes sharp with thought. "What is he to us?" it asked. "He is not dragon. He is not sworn." The elder did not answer at once. Instead, it looked beyond the chamber walls, through stone and sky, into memory. "Once," the elder said, "we believed warmth was weakness." The room stilled. "We learned too late that warmth is what endures." The elder's gaze returned to the human. This one bled without promise, stayed without reward, protected without order. The mark beneath the human's chest pulsed once, unseen, as if it heard its purpose spoken aloud. The elder raised one massive claw and struck the stone floor. The sound rang through the mountain. "Let it be known," the elder declared, "that a path has opened." Light spread across the chamber floor, forming lines older than written law. The dragons watched as the pattern shaped itself into a symbol never used before. Not a crest. Not a crown. A bridge. The younger dragon drew in a slow breath. "If others learn of this." "They will," the elder said calmly. Below the mountain, in distant systems, signals shifted. Records changed. Ancient warnings lifted and rewrote themselves. Where once humans were marked as fragile, short-lived, and divided, a new note appeared. Bond-capable. The human felt a sudden pressure in the air. He looked up, uneasy. "What's happening?" he asked softly. The elder lowered its head until one great eye met his gaze. "Nothing you must carry alone," it said. The hatchling climbed onto the human's knee and settled there, warm and heavy. The human laughed quietly and held the child without thinking. That sound, simple, human, traveled farther than any roar. In the days that followed, the mountain changed. Not fast. Not loudly. Other dragons came. They watched from a distance. Some with caution. Some with doubt. None with anger. They saw the human bring food the hatchling liked. They saw him sing low, broken songs with no words. They saw him sit through the cold without complaint, simply to stay near. The child grew calmer, stronger. And so did the idea. When the first outside envoys arrived, they came armed with fear and expectation. They expected fire. They expected death. They found a human standing at the edge of the stone path, one hand raised in peace, a dragon child perched on his shoulder like it had always belonged there. The story spread. Not as legend at first. As fact. A human had been trusted. A dragon child had chosen. And the ancient line between species had cracked, not from force but from care. The elder watched from above as new paths formed below. "It has begun," it murmured. The human did not hear those words. He was too busy helping the hatchling learn to balance its wings in the thin mountain air, laughing each time the child fell and climbed back up. History shifted quietly around them. Not with war. Not with conquest. But with a bond that neither side had planned, and neither would ever forget.